Good evening, Lord Jesus. Thank you for gathering us and for being with us. You are the light. Shine within us now. You are the word. Sound within us now. You are the door. Open before us now. Open upon the vision of your kingdom already here in our midst. So, good evening. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm certainly relieved that we've come to the last talk, and I am going to escape without inflicting too big a dent in my dignity. I've decided that it's best to pay my tributes first tonight and then use the time remaining for a few more retreat points. And I have two tributes to make. The first is to you. You have a good thing going here, a really good thing. You have a beautiful place and a beautiful worship service, very beautiful, very right, not, I'm ad-libbing now, but it's sort of right for this group. You pay for smallness, some price. I like a little more bigness, but you get something also for the price, and you've got a good variety in the garden of nuts. Yesterday I was talking to the group about my conversion, and I said when I read Seven Story Mountain, I was completely turned off by the Trappists. I said to myself, those guys are a bunch of weirdos. And then I entered the order, and I found out we are. As Dom de Roquette would say, you are caractères. But as he used to say, you are caractères. But as I've said, as I've said, God runs a wild sort of party, and what better practice and preview for that than living with 30 characters, 30 other characters. And the biggest character is Brother Gabriel. I think he's listening. He said he was. I've lived at length, more seriously, I've lived at length in 3 of our monasteries, and I have the scars to prove it. And I've visited over a dozen of our houses besides. So I'm not romanticizing you. I knew before I came that you have your heartaches, individual and common. All I'm saying is that you have a lot going for you here, going for the monkish project, which, in case you haven't heard, is looking and loving. The project is to let it through here and now, to be wicks and let his fire burn quiet and clear here and now, and stronger toward him, toward each other, toward everything that is. Dorothy Day seemed to understand this, and it's remarkable that our busy Teresa of Calcutta seems to know this. The one thing necessary in every vocation, from every human person, is to be a wick to that flame. You have a beautiful setup to do that here. Use it. And use it without fretting about relevancy or whether you should be sharing the destitution of the world's destitute. The world's destitute need that you be here, being a wick to his flame. You might not be a good wick out there. Some can. A lot can't. Be here and let go and give in and give yourself up to the light and the fire Be here and be quiet and look, and let him flow through you to what you look upon. I think that's what this place is for. And if that's going on here, it's worth it. I must say also that you are a very easy and very facilitating group to address, and I am grateful to you for the support I experienced as I stood here. My second tribute is to the Lady of Mepkin, and that will be simple and brief and personal. I have not spoken of Our Lady, but neither have I spoken of the Trinity, and I've had several very strong openers in that direction. The Trinity, in fact, is where my private theology begins. I devoured Scheben's Mysteries of Christianity in my novitiate. So don't conclude anything from what I have not mentioned. This retreat wrote itself. I had precious little control of its development, which makes me feel a bit safer. Someone had a message somewhere in there for you. The only thing I want to say of Mary is that while there may be something lacking in my devotion to her, there is nothing lacking in her devotion to me. She is there, but she is like very discreet. She puts her boy forward to talk with me. What I have noticed and what I want to share with you is that whenever I have wandered off and forgotten him to the point that I am so lost that I seem unable to find my way back, I finally holler, "Mary, help me." I never yell that until I'm sure I want help. And presto, she's there, like Habakkuk's angel, by the hair of my head. Swiftly I find myself brought back to her son, and almost before I have time to turn and thank her, she does a handmaiden's fade. I got some people very angry with me when I shared this once before, but I'm really not telling anyone how it should be with them and Our Lady. I have no idea how it should be with anyone, not even myself. I'm just telling you how she does with me. I think it's beautiful. I wanted to tell you about it and pay her public tribute at the same time. She is the Lord's handmaiden, and rather nice to me, too. There are a number of things I wish I had said that will not be said. I guess the well-rounded retreat master at this point sums it all up. I guess he does. What I would like to do is just point out a consequence of the infection, the Trojan horse, the incarnation. Several things have not been the same since God himself, in Jesus of Nazareth, entered the scene, and having entered the scene, infected us with divine life. Ever since then, I find that I not only walk in God, as in the living, affirming space of my existence, I find out I not only have God pressing me into being from the centermost center of every fiber of my being, but I find that God in Christ, Jesus, walks with me everywhere. A very quiet companion, constant, close, very quiet, and yet endlessly teaching. When I was in Switzerland that time, I used to walk the mountain paths, and I kept passing this tall, fine-looking woman of about 65, steady. We would greet and pass, and I would be to the top and back again, and she would be quietly coming along. As I walked, if I spotted something growing here or there, I would pop to and fro off the trail to have a look. Toward the end of the week, she stopped me and said a few words, and then she said, "You seem to want to see everything twice." And I laughed. My feeling is that I do see everything twice since he came into the act. First, my way, and then just an instant later, his way. And he does it without saying a word, just by the way he looks at the thing and the look in his eyes. And since he came and infected us all with his blood, there is another consequence that hits me as I walk down the road. Not only is God in me, not only is Jesus with me, but God in Jesus meets me all along the way. I don't usually notice his hands, but just about everybody I meet has these thorn marks on his forehead. It's a real epidemic. It's wonderful. I say wonderful, wonderfully strange and beautiful and heart-lifting and painful. But I wouldn't want it not to be. And I have just now a tremendous sense that this place of yours would be a beautiful place to walk in, walk with, and meet God in Jesus. You've got a good thing here. If I was smart, I'd stop right there. But as they say in logic, if you deny the antecedent, you deny the consequent. If I was smart, I'd never be up here spouting in the first place. I want to tack on two other items. The first is about power. I've been wanting to get to this all week, and it never happened. The first is about power. I made a pro-golf workshop recently. It was very interesting, very complicated. But one of its gimmicks is a method of getting into a kind of twilight consciousness, and then you dialogue with various levels of yourself, but you dialogue then with symbolic figures, you personify. One of the dialogues was to be with your wisdom figure. And a Dominican who explained it used, I don't know which generation is going to remember this, used Captain Marvel, an old comic strip character. Well, I remember that. An old comic strip character to explain what one's wisdom figure might be. It seems that there was this crippled boy, I think it's Billy Batson? Wasn't it Billy Batson? At any rate, there was this crippled boy, and he finds a cave. And in the cave, he meets this hoary old kingly figure sitting on a throne. And this figure's name turns out to be Shazam. And as it turns out, when Billy speaks his name, Billy turns into Captain Marvel with also a kind of a variety of Superman. The reason for this is, as the Dominican described him, this old man, Shazam, is the embodiment, like the incarnation, of all the wisdom and power of the world. He has seen the bones and the joints of the universe. Well, I'm listening to him, and that could only be one figure for me. Some were using Socrates. I like Socrates. Some were using Socrates, some Buddha, or Dag Hammarskjöld. Fine. For me, it had to be that description had to be Jesus. So I dropped into twilight, and after a while, it's a remarkable technique because it gets home. After a while, this is what I wrote. Lord, I'm not into this too well, but it is nice to sort of picture you, see you as Shazam, as Bob describes him, the one who has seen it all, seen the bones and joints of all reality, the totally wise one, the one not with all the answers, really, but with all the vision, who therefore needs neither answers nor questions. The one who answers by turning the light of his eyes on the reality questioned. I don't see you, Lord, as power. Power seems irrelevant to wisdom. I come to you hoping for simple vision. I will not need power then, for I will see that somehow all is well already, and power in my hands can only do it violence and bring confusion. I am somehow supposed to dialogue with you, but I don't know how to put any questions. All I can ask is for you to speak if you choose, or not if you choose, but be, and be my light. And then he broke in. That was the end. It was time to quit. And finally, as the epilogue, or is it the epitaph of this retreat, I want to read to you again something you sang to me this week in church. It struck me even then as summing up rather well the whole thrust and the point of this retreat. Before the sun burned bright and rivers flowed, I called you each by name to share my home. No longer be afraid. You are my sons. My love will never end.